No more footy-free weekends for the foreseeable future. That means where all systems go in the Phantoms lair. This is, of course, the Phantoms speaking in 2025. We'll be back every Monday. All your favourites will be on the Phantoms lair in 2025. Subscribe to Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. And, of course, this year, for the first time, the all-new look on Code Sports YouTube. Watch the show every week with us. It is looking a little bit different this week, but we do have a big show. The footy is back. As I said, practice matches in full swing. The Chief is here. Haydn, Dos, Kenny, welcome back. You've brought a friend, one of your men from the ground. You always refer to him. You're almost your secret whisperer, making you look good on the show. You've brought him in.
I have, yes. We've had him once on the show already coming into the lair, but not the official lair, not with, the Phantom back on deck. So we've got Jordan DeSena here. Walk us through your credentials, mate, because you have had a couple of top finishes. You're a regular in the SuperCoach high rankings, and also, dare I say, a little bit of a nuffy, a little bit of a Port Adelaide nuffy as well on the track watch.
Yeah, good to be back, boys. Thanks for having me. Loving, obviously, down at Port Train the last probably 4 weeks, I think. So we're down there, Dossie, which was awesome.
Been busy.
And, been tweeting a few notes out, but a couple of high finishes, I guess. 2023 was 11 and last year was 298. So hopefully can try and get another top 500 finish. But keen to get stuck in and talk about some of these players putting their hand up in our sides.
Impressive numbers you'll probably never ever see, Dossie, like what we've seen so far. But there's always another season. But are you in our league, Dossie? We do have a bit of a Phantoms Lair League for the listeners, a bit of an open league. What can you tell us?
Yeah, well, I'm even going to drop the code just here live on air, and then everyone can check the description if you so choose. But we haven't dropped this anywhere yet.
Yep, so if you are listening, Code Sports YouTube, and have a look now. Code on your screen.
I'll also say it though.
Yep.
719067. We just want to know who the real Lair fans are before we post this anywhere else, fans. But 719067. Geordie's going to jump in straight after. He's a big fan of the Lair.
Definitely.
But come in, join the Open League, take on the likes of the Phantom Junior. We'll get Jordan DeSena in there as well, and the likes of Five Names and all your favourite Lair members.
Now, Five Names, Simeon Thomas-Wilson isn't here today. We are going to catch up with him, though. He's been across the beat, as he always has been, knows what's going on down at West Lakes with the Crows. Matt Turner, the hipster, will be in that league. Haven't seen him for a while. Now, Five Names worked up a 40-love first game of the first set against Hipster. He's well and truly in front of that now. We haven't seen Hipster for 4 weeks now, so time is ticking, but we hopefully, again, we'll see him on the Lair in 2025. But before we start, Dossie, now, we know our friends listen to this show across the border over in Melbourne. Got a few texts after last week's show. Didn't mind the old Chief nickname.
Yeah, I copped a few in the DMs this week, even from one Dan Batten was giving it to me in the chat.
Got a message yesterday.
Okay.
Saying, can you please tell the Chief, stop copying me? The Chief, referred to you as the Chief.
Stop copying you.
Yep, your social media on X at HKDOS.
Okay.
Your overreactions, you're overreacting. Our man from the Herald Sun, Tim Mitchell, thinks you're copying him and even said, Dossie, the Chief, at least pick someone funny if you're going to copy someone. Get your own material.
Who's this in reference to specifically?
Might have been one of your... Who did you tweet about with the picture of the...
There was a few tweets. And I want to talk about that right now, fans. Our overreactions from the trial matches.
Your specialty.
Absolutely. Love an overreaction. Who did we overreact to on the weekend? Who's come into your team out of nowhere that wasn't in there before? Geordie, you kick us off.
Oh, I love Riley Sanders, 16 CBAs. I'm locking him in at the moment.
Huge.
Now, you had a few, Dossie. What was your biggest one?
Will Day for me, looking at him cruising out there for the Hawks. He dominated on the weekend. I've also got SDK, Sam DeConning. He's coming in of the ruck. James Sicily. Who else have I got? Riley Sanders. He'll come into my team as well. Harley Reid didn't play, but he's in as well.
Well, I've got Mitch Nevitt, solidified him on the bench. That's it, though.
Oh.
Cannot overreact. You cannot bring someone in from nowhere after a game for nothing, a practice match, unofficial practice match. At least wait for 2. I haven't changed my team. If you have listened to the Phantoms Lair before, I don't change my team a lot over the preseason. We need to see a bit more. A lot of mid-price, a lot of guys we haven't seen do it before. Yes, you can take a little bit out of it. Don't bring in someone from nowhere yet. It's only one game. Okay, we are going to dive into all the numbers and all the games and all the actions so far. It's Tuesday here, but first we are going to cross to our man. Couldn't quite make it in there. He is a busy man. I have been told also just, haven't seen him for a couple of days. Just, might have enjoyed himself a little bit too much at Live Golf Dossie. But 5 names a couple of days before that, Simeon Thomas-Wilson, the man on the beat in Adelaide, has been all over the Crows at the internal trial last week. And 5 names. Welcome to the Lair, on call. Sid Draper wrote the story this morning. You wrote him off a couple of weeks ago, but you're writing him back on.
Yes and no. Hello, Phantom. Hello, everybody. Yes, no. Via the phone, unfortunately, couldn't be there today. As you said, I did go to the Port Pirie up and back in a day. So the things I do for you guys and the fans.
Very good.
To see what's happening at the Crows internal trial. Sid Draper, yep. Yes, well, Tex normally does have a good idea. He went on radio and said that he reckons Draper's a pretty good chance for round 1. Starting to soften a little bit, but I'm going to put one big caveat on here, Phantom.
Yep.
And Dossie, everyone. I hate it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's a sub.
That is very Matthew Nix.
That was going to be my question about Draper, just whether he's that best 22 and if he's the sub or they ease him back in. So,
I reckon, again, like he was in the A's on the internal trial, but ISAT ranking was with the Indigenous All-Stars. So that's the big thing. And I just reckon with his speed, his acceleration from a stoppage, he's an ideal sub for the Crows to begin the season with.
Well, that's
not good for us.
It's an interesting one. Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. A popular rookie option for us all, Sim. But 5 names. I want to ask you about a guy that I've been keeping a real close eye on first in the premium bracket. Really big on Jordan Dawson, the skipper. How did he go in the trial?
Yep, good. Played midfield. Did Dawson things.
That was a concern, wasn't it? Where we'd play. Playing midfield. I still have the concern, though, he's just so valuable to Matthew Nix everywhere. He's probably going to want to start in the midfield, but does that mean he's going to move him around, though, when he's needed?
Yeah, I think that very well could happen. And again, with Draper, with almost everything, you got to have the caveat that Rankin wasn't there.
Yep.
So see how Rankin kind of comes in. But Dawson did start first centre bounce. I reckon he's I'm starting to think now he's probably going to play more midfield than anything else.
Now, we have a SuperCoach guru with us today in Jordan. Jordan, is there any players here you want to ask Sim about and get the intel from up in Port Pirie in that intra-club?
Yes, well, James Peatling is sitting in my team currently at M5, so I've put him there at M5. Just wondering on his role. I know there has been a bit of talk about him on the wing or maybe half forward. Was he playing inside mid?
He was round the ball, just not even near the wing. He was electric. He's someone I reckon you should feel very confident about locking in now. I guess, again, maybe see what happens in the 2 practice matches, but of the 2, preseason matches. But, he was around the ball. His pace, his speed, he was getting a lot of the footy. It was actually more Soligo which went to the wing at times, even though Soligo was racking up the ball in the first quarter. Soligo went to the wing in the second a bit more, but was still kind of coming in and adding an extra man at the stoppage. So, I say Peatling was a lot more on the ball, not really half forward, not really on the wing. Did ask Nix about it after the game, and he said ideally they do want to get Peatling around the ball, but it could be a week-to-week thing. But at the moment, I reckon at that price is pretty, almost a lock.
That's what we want to hear, 5 names. That's the intel we got you on for. But Dan Curtin, you've been writing on codesports.com.au for a while now about how the Crows forward line might look in 2025 with an extra tool, including Dan Curtin. Is that what you saw on Friday?
Yeah, so Dan, it was impressive, Dan. He's a big boy. He's added some size to him, but he's still very good on when the ball goes to ground. He was played mainly forward, so they're looking at that 4 tools. But interesting at times, he did line up on a wing at some centre back. I guess when they were resuming the game or that kind of stuff. So that I reckon his role may be more forward a couple of times on the wing. The other thing was to watch Isaac Cummings started on the wing, but when Michael Lanny went down with his dislocated thumb, he was more in defence after that.
Ooh, that is a juicy development.
Is Max in doubt for round 1?
I reckon he's on track to play round 1. The Crow said today he'll miss the 2 pre-season games, but he's aiming for round 1. So I think he's going to return for that. That's Michael Lanny. Can I just say that when we did, he only played probably about, 8 minutes. It wasn't a lot of minutes. He had about a couple of times where he was streaming forward of being providing an attack off half back, which we haven't seen from him.
No.
But that could be the next evolution in Michael Lanny.
Pew pew. We like it. 5 names. All over it. You are, of course, CEO of Simeon Thomas-Wilson. We call him by his real name for once. Codesports.com.au for all things Crows and SA Footy. But we'll finish off with one last question. 1-word answer from you, 5 names. Did you pay for anything at Live Golf on Sunday?
Yes.
Oh, wouldn't have been much.
No, I think maybe 2 drinks.
Oh, very good. We'll see you back here on the Lair next week. And of course, at Simeon_TW on X to follow our man, 5 names.
Just one thing, sorry. Where's Hipster? See that?
Well, good question. We spoke about at the top of the show. You've definitely won the first game. You're well and truly into the second and third game as well in that theoretical tennis match, but we haven't seen him. So left, right, good night. It's growing legs every week.
Oh, dear. Oh, well, we might. You never know. We might not. Who knows?
See you, 5 names.
Yeah.
All right. Great intel from 5 names there at the Crows trial game. Live in person. Look, you might have seen a bit of the live stream on the weekend. Bit choppy though, dare I say. So good thing that 5's name was there on the ground for us getting that intel. Should we move on to the next game, Vance?
We should. We had some actual competition.
We did. So the Indigenous All-Stars, as alluded to by 5 names, versus Fremantle. And I think we need to kick it off with a favourite of the Lair fans and a new sting for the show in 2025.
The horny one!
We love it, the horny one. We have to start at the top as well with the big issue, the whole Supercoach community. Our man, our Peyton, again. Geordie's shaking his head. Even he knows.
Yep.
Now, ours covered off every game. All the key stuff you need to know, codesports.com.au. Supercoach match intel. I'll read you one line here on Jason Horne-Francis, Dossie.
Okay.
He's still not in my team, but that decision is looking shaky by the minute. Still not in his team. What did he score? 132 Supercoach points.
There he is again, the horny one!
Not sure. What else can we do with our?
Yeah, what did you get to catch the game, Jordan? Like, I was impressed. Started on the bench, I think, as well. So came off and lit the crowd alight.
Yeah, I mean, Horne-Francis has been in my team since the team picker open. He hasn't left that F1 spot. I've been pretty excited about him. 132 points. Did have the 3 goals, but only 17 disposals. Like, I feel like that can get in the height, like 20s, 25s, a goal or 2. Still got the 132 Supercoach. He's just that perfect contested player that gets, like, the scoring just is great for him. And yeah, he just hasn't left my side. I understand there's, you got Butters and Rosie. We're taking some points there potentially, but I still think as a forward, he's going to be one of our top guys, and I'm locking him in.
There's nothing to understand.
No, we've got the portrait on the wall for a reason. The horny one. He's a Lair mascot this year, I'd almost suggest, Vance. Yeah, he's locked in. There was a couple of other performances, though, maybe, got coaches thinking out there. Jai Simpkin, 429K, forward mid, playing a lot of midfield, 30 disposals, 10 clearances, a goal, and 154 Supercoach points. One of the rare games that we did get some champion data stats on, and it was good to see that. 150, though. He was the top scorer, Jai Simpkin. Any interest, Vance?
No.
None. Okay.
3% owned.
Too high. He was good. He was good on the weekend. I've seen him be quite not so good.
He was an option late last year, though, coming into a few teams when he switched it around, had his midfield time back, was sort of stuck forward from memory early last year. So some interest perhaps from Jordan.
Yeah, I think the back half of last year got a little bit more CBAs, which was awesome to see. It'd be good to see one of these North Melbourne match sims to actually see that mix. Obviously, have lost the Wardlaw.
Yep.
So there could be a bit of time. There's a bit of talk about Parker there. So it'd be good to see. But to see him fit and firing is good signs.
Well, they're the key things to take out of it because Freo coach Justin Longmuir did say after the game that Freo weren't giving much away. They took it pretty easy. They weren't trying to put in place what they've been preparing for the season. Justin Longmuir openly admitted that. So didn't say they were going easy, but they definitely weren't for Freo that we're going to see in 2025. So we have to sort of think about that sort of thing in all the games. We know they're only practice matches, so you look for different parts. And I think the role fit, moving well, is a tick for him, but just I can't go there.
Yeah, we'll have to see how he goes in the North Melbourne actual match sim coming up as well with their proper team. Couple of names, though, that we can take, a bit of solace in performing well. Brayshaw and Sarong just doing what we know that they can do. Both, I think. So Sarong 100, Brayshaw 99. As you say, you're sort of not completely on the pedal in this one as well. So very happy with that. If you were locking them in, you wouldn't be changing your plans.
Yep.
A couple of other names, though, that got brought to our attention on the weekend, I would say more so than ever before because it wasn't really highly owned, this guy, heading into the weekend. Nathan O'Driscoll, very high-priced rookie bracket, so up near 200K you got to pay for this guy. But he was looking good. 18 disposals, 10 marks, 6 tackles on a wing, 104 SuperCoach points, a couple of CBAs I think as well in there. So I just don't know about paying up for a wingman if he's going to get that role and even if he can retain that role throughout the season. But your thoughts, fans?
Well, in Code Sports Rookie Bible, Dan Batten and I did cover him off early in the pre-season because he was big in the waffle. This is the kid that came in, I think, if it wasn't his debut, it was his second game, scored a SuperCoach ton when he made his debut a couple of years ago, had some injury issues. Last 7 games in the waffle last season, 6 SuperCoach tons, 130 points, 29 disposals to finish off in the grand final as well. So a big finish in the state league. So I don't mind it. I'd want to see, how he fits in exactly with everyone there and the proper Freo structure or game plan that Longmire's alluding to. But we've spoken about paying up for the rookies this year. I think he fits into that bracket. If he is injury-free, he has been there before, unlike the draftees. So I don't mind it.
Yeah, on Noddy. Big fan, big person in the SuperCoach community. Damo was on the podcast earlier this preseason. He's been shouting his name from the mountaintops as a Fremantle fan, and now he'll probably be wanting to shout that a little bit quieter because I think his ownership is going to jump quite a bit after the weekend. Just a couple more names to wrap things up for this game. Reedy in the ruck. Thoughts, Geordie, on running him as maybe your second ruck, bench ruck, or even in the flex position as he's only in the 150K.
132, I think.
132. What do you think?
I think for me, originally with Darcy being a couple of weeks is what it was, coming out of there. But I think Darcy's now rounds 5 to 7, I think was the news, Sean Darcy. So if Reedy can get 5 or 6 games and you're going to get that price rise, he probably is starting to tempt me as an option. Scoring wise, obviously got the 55. But if we can get a price rise there, probably one that we should actually consider at his price tag. So I guess as the preseason goes on, we'll see if we get these guys like Boyd and Archer Reed and these types and whether just how we structure up on that flex and R3 position. Little bit of interest, yeah.
Yeah, talking about no overreactions, fans. Reedy was another one that made his way into my team. He was in there before, actually. I just think if you've got the rucks and they're actually playing, even if it's for a short period of time, as you said, I think, Sean Darcy's somewhere in that round 3 to 5, or I think it was 3 to 5 range. So that makes it a bit tricky if he's coming back, Vance. But what do you think?
Different question as well. Luke Jackson scored 80 SuperCoach points.
Mm-hmm.
If he plays as the number one man, or at least without Darcy for 5 weeks, does that get you off to a big start? We know how big he can go. Looks good.
It looks like Reedy's just been in the plans all preseason for the Dockers, like to bring him in and let Luke Jackson, because they're sick of being like, okay, Luke Jackson, you're going to play this role. And then all of a sudden Sean Darcy goes down yet again. And then they have to be like, oh, let's, change. He's been training not as a pure ruck all preseason. And then to throw it to him again, I think they're going to go with Reedy. But as you said, if Jackson is solo round one, it'd be hard to pass up a run of, whether it's 3, 5, 6, however many rounds it takes for Darcy to get back. We know how good he can be.
Surely they're better side with Luke Jackson in the ruck. Neil Erasmus quickly, 74 SuperCoach points for him, 13 CBAs as well in the nod bracket in terms of rookies. A cheaper rookie though. We've beat his drums a lot here on the show. Some good signs. A 7th top scorer. So he was number 7 for SuperCoach points for the Dockers on the weekend.
Now, I haven't seen an update on Wanganeen Miller, but had the injury tag next to him on the AFL app, hoping that is just a cramp or something like that. I didn't catch what was that. So keep your eye out on some news on Wanganeen Miller as well. Hopefully, as we said, nothing major there and we can keep tracking there. He scored a 60-odd but had very low time on ground. On to the North Melbourne internal trial. Some standout names. Harry Sheasel, best on ground, playing mid as expected. I mean, he's been in my team a lot of the preseason, but recently I've been trying to be a bit fancy and go against him. He's straight back in now for me, Jordan.
Yeah, same. He's one of those guys that hasn't actually left my side since the team picker, I think. Just that D1, I love having him there, just sitting there, just very solid. I even think, if it's that mid-forward role, I still think he's going to score unreal. So he is locked in for me and, great to see he was best on ground.
A few other really SuperCoach relevant names to talk about in this one, Fance. Caleb Daniel, dominating. Halfback as predicted. McKercher.
Just let me ask you though, Caleb, if the report was Caleb Daniel couldn't get a kick, would you take him out of your team?
No.
In an internal trial?
Well, maybe. Like if you can't get a kick in an internal trial versus the worst part of North Melbourne.
Can't overreact.
Daniel dominated.
Move on from Daniel.
McKercher's the one that's interesting though, because there was a lot of clips that we saw from that game of him dominating, disposing of the ball, fantastic. But wing forward, as was flagged last week when we were talking about defenders, he's not going to be playing defence as far as we know at the moment. It is still pre-season, but as far as we know that he's not in that defensive role, he is in a wing forward role. Are you still interested in him as a bargain price player?
I've actually had SDK there as a D3 and I've just upgraded him today to McKercher. Now,
wow.
I know it's not the halfback role, but I just saw some footage rolling through of him looking like Errol Goulden. I don't know whether that was who that was coming from, but it just looked awesome and you can see what Errol can do on the wing. I've actually just upgraded him in my D3 position. So maybe that is an overreaction, but I do like him.
No, not an overreaction. Geordie knows what he's talking about. I've put him into the breakout. I think we spoke about this a couple of shows ago. It doesn't matter. I think it's going to be like Harry Sheasel. I said it with Harry Sheasel last year. I've said it with McKercher, start of the pre-season. This kid's just a good player, a great player. It doesn't matter. He doesn't need to play across half back and get easy footy, just like Harry Sheasel's proven. So I think we're going to learn similar again, and it showed, as Geordie mentioned there, what he can do. He's better for North, further up the ground, like Harry Sheasel, and he's going to show that he can score without that easy role.
Well, you mentioned Errol Goulden, and Dossie's coming with a few little nuggets of stats here for the boys. But if he is playing wing, I know it's probably likely a bit of a mixture, maybe a little bit inside, maybe even floating back sometimes. We don't know yet. It's so early, but the only wing classified by Champion Data as a wingman to average over 100 last year was Errol Goulden. Only 2 other wings averaged over 90. He's priced at 88. So he's going to have to be one of the top 3 averaging wings in the competition to outperform his price. Does it change your mind on McKercher?
No.
I think he can do it.
Me too. You're not convinced? Who are the other two?
It's a hefty price to pay.
Oh, we don't have a competition, are we? Thought you were going to give us a competition. Who are the other two wingmen to average over 90?
Josh Dacos.
Yep.
And Blake Acres.
I think if Kangaroos are going to win more games, hopefully he's going to have, like you said, that impact forward of the ball. I'm hoping that that's going to push those extra points there. And yeah, I mean, that video I saw just looked so good. So I just had to put him in.
But he's at a price where you don't have to start him. He's not going to get away from you as such.
Yeah, that's probably where I land, just because, you know, an 88 price tag, a lot of those scores where he dominated last year were in that halfback role where he would just put up monster ceiling scores. And we're expecting, you know, Caleb Daniel to be in that role this year. So that's just where I'm landing. I think I'll wait and see on McKercher, but he's a young gun of the competition. I'm not saying he's not going to have a great year. I just wonder whether that price point's a bit tough. Some other players just gaining a bit of buzz. We'll just go through these guys quickly. Luke Parker. Your thoughts, Jordan, because we've had a few thoughts on Luke Parker on this podcast and on the Forward podcast that the Melbourne guys did last week. They had some interesting thoughts on Luke Parker. It was also Abs Magic, so from the Skodfather himself.
Oh my God.
Thinking that, look, they're going to need that bigger body to go in there with some of these young midfielders. And he was pretty high on Luke Parker as well, as was the Melbourne crew.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's definitely going to play midfield. He's going to split mid-forward. I'm pretty sure he's come out and said that. He is going to play some forward time. I just wonder, like, their midfield does have a bit of depth, and it's just, can he push some of those other guys that we've got there as a top six forward? For me, it's probably just going to be something that I'm going to wait on and see, I think. In season, and if I need to trade into someone like that, I will. I think just to start with him, I think I'm going to go with the pack on the other popular guys. I just think it might be hard for him to break into that top six forward category with the other names that we've got. But one to watch, obviously, no Simpkin on the weekend as well. Wardlaw is out, but I think Tom Power is actually the guy that they're going to use as that sort of fix-it with Wardlaw out, and obviously have the other names, LDU and Sheasel. But I think we might see Tom Power actually take a bit of mid-time as well.
We did close last episode, Dossie, with a bit of Tom Power action as well. We spoke about it more in the draft conversation, but North have been pumping up. We know he's a big Supercoach scorer at his best, as well as got the game for it, and might now have the body to physically be ready to do it.
There wasn't too much groundbreaking stuff, though, other than, you know, stuff we maybe already knew from the intra-club there. Cherry just was rested as well, played a little bit. And as you say, no overreactions. So we can pick and choose what we can and can't overreact to. Him just getting rested, I'm not going to react to that at all. So move on to...
Anyone can look good playing against their teammates.
Western Bulldogs versus Essendon.
Again, back to the games.
Back to the real stuff here. Now, just a reminder on who was out of this game. Dogs were missing the Bont, a few other names, mainly Tom Liberatore is probably the other one. So two of their mainstays in the midfield we'll just mention. Darcy Parish as well was out for the Dons, but he is going to miss round one as far as we know. So there is a couple of major missing components of the midfield, but Elijah Sardis, 191K. Fans, I think we've been talking him up for a while now, but he's well known in the Supercoach community as a guy that could take that step. Another
tick for him in terms of making his way into our starting teams. Still a big watch to what happens over the rest of the preseason, but shown again he can win the ball on the outside, kicking played up a little bit, which we've discussed as well. But definitely very versatile in the roles he can play there through the midfield. And I think if he gets to go, the amount of footy he can win, if he's just get the backing of Brad Scott to go out there and win the footy in that midfield, then we have to pick him. But not going to make that call until we see the next game.
Now, Riley Sanders, you mentioned off the top, you were impressed with his game. Cheap in our forward line, 339K. He's been the buzz of the Supercoach community the last couple of weeks, but we got to see him in action against the Dons.
Yeah, had 73% CBAs, the most out of the Dogs. And I don't know if you saw, but last week there was an article on afl.com.au and it was about his diet and he's living with Treloar now and all the professionalism that he's taken out of last year and also getting dropped. And he just seems like he's going to take his game to another level. And then obviously now we have that injury news about Treloar missing with his calf. I just feel like he's going to take that role, and we still don't know what's happening with Libba. Obviously, he was missing as well. I just feel like it might be Bont, Richards, and Sanders and Kennedy as the third and fourth. Obviously, if Libba's there, he'll probably get some time. So that's probably your five guys, and I just think he's going to, at his price, I think he's a really good option, and I'm pretty keen on him. And he's obviously, as a junior, got a lot of pedigree, and I'm pretty hot on him.
Yep, 73% centre bounces. Just on Stardust, he had 86% of the Bomber centre bounces. But Riley Sanders isn't someone that needs that figure to score well.
Yeah. So we're not overreacting with that 73% because we know Bont, we know Libba's not there. You're saying you think he can still
if he's the fifth,
outperform his
if
price
he's the fifth guy,
easily.
Yeah. And then given the way he wins the footy, he's a ball magnet around the ground too. So he's not pigeonholed into a role. He's still sort of used as attacking player, and then gets his parts in the midfield in that centre bounce rotation. Then might be enough at 339k.
He's a fool's gold with Bevo.
I think yes.
Could be.
I think
definitely could be.
Yeah.
Probably the only thing is the Bevo,
Could be sub
those things roll. You just want to make sure. But if he's there and he's in that rotation, I can't see why I won't be picking him.
Yeah, there was that game last year where he subbed at halftime when I think he was dominating up until, in our view, he was dominating up until that point. I just want to talk about a man that you brought to the table very early on this show. I think that was the one you missed, Fans.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying you were hot on Ed Richards back then, and all we've seen so far is amazing things from the great man.
Yes, I'm a big Ed Richards man. I think, just the back end of the last year, he went at 104, I think it was, and I feel like he can at least do that this year. And I think, it was mentioned that usually it takes these guys a year, like sort of in the midfield, just to work out that craft. And now he's had a full preseason. I saw an article come out and he said he's had a full preseason in the midfield. He knows his role now. Like I guess last year had a bit of defence and mid, and then now he's focused on that role. I think he's going to be the number 2 guy behind Bont, and I can see him going. Yeah, I can see sort of 10 points. I'm going to upside there from his price. So, I just I'm a big Ed Richards fan.
And going to be a point of difference, I'd still suggest, for this season. Given his price is 98, it's kind of that awkward price bracket. I don't think the masses are going to jump on, especially given this one, no Bont, no Libba. We'll see what happens before we get to see them in round 1, but I'd suggest he's still going to be a point of difference heading into round 1. He's currently in my team as well, Fans.
3% owned.
Speaking of low owned, what about our old man, his man, Bears man, at Bear Torres? Announcement coming soon on him, by the way. Joel Frazier.
Yes, Joel Frazier.
370k defender. Had it on a string across halfback for the Dogs. Did show some good signs when he played last year, like Bear said he would. We'll need to see more. Awkward price, but just one to add to the watch list after what we saw.
I do like Joel Frazier. I just wish he was just a little bit cheaper.
Yep.
I think he's in that awkward bracket where he could be a great D5, D6 if he's just a little bit cheaper. But
another player. I didn't mention Bailey Dale. I don't think he was out there either. So just one to watch. He was mopping up back there, but it was Rory Lobb was getting a fair bit of it back there, and Frazier. So
Cody Waitman won't be out there for a while either. We learnt this week as well, which brings the mature age of Sam Davidson from the VFL, who was probably in the frame already for an early season debut. Now even more so, given Waitman won't be there in the forward. We know Jamari Ugle-Hagan, there's still doubts over when he'll be available. So Sam Davidson, 113k forward, looking like a good one for the bench. Might not be a huge scorer.
Looked all right.
Looks okay, but is he going to get enough for the footy? But again, only takes a couple of games, good games as a forward, for his price to shoot up. So good bench option looming there.
Fraser won the time trial too at the Dogs. You know what? He's a guy that I'd love to start as a pod.
At Beartorius?
At Beartorius. Shout out. Just a couple more names here from this game. Now, Al Payton, he did put it in his wrap-up, as we've mentioned, up on Code Sports. He was talking about Dylan Shield, 413K. He's playing off half-back is the big thing. I could never go there. The body's just too much of an issue for me. But he could be, especially in draft. He's one that's clearly having a role change. He's going back on that half-back flank, and he's going to be, going to outperform his price, I think, but way too risky, I think, for me.
Yeah, same.
Fans.
Can't go there.
He's a draft one for me.
But then there was a couple of rookies. Isaac Kako, I think he's going to just have job security. Oodles of job security. Whether or not he can score, we know small forwards aren't the greatest scorers, but his job security is going to be through the roof. Might be worth paying up a little bit extra for that.
We might be talking about in a couple of weeks. Could be the Joe Barry versus Isaac Kako. Similar price, small forwards. They're clubs who should play and they've got plenty of tricks.
Yeah.
Might be one or the other given their price, but I reckon that's a conversation we might have to have.
The great thing about Kako is we get to see him in opening round.
Yep.
So if he's putting up a score there, I think that might help our decision. If it's a low one, then as you said, it could be okay. Let's give Joe Barry a crack here. So that's great to get that opening round score.
We saw Braden Crossley as well, former son, play in the ruck for the Dogs. Tim English spent a bit of time forward, but the story come through across our desk a little bit earlier from John Ralph, a man over at the Herald Sun, said he's probably not match fit yet and would be unlikely to play around one, even if he was elevated onto the list. And he is the favourite now to get that spot, but still, given he hasn't done a full preseason for a while, might still not be ready to come in and play. So again, announcement from the Dogs on him would look like good Supercoach news, but maybe not right away.
Good to know. And Saad El Hawali, that was how the pronunciation was on the broadcast, as far as I know. 119.9K, did a little bit, but I probably think coaches were hoping he'd pop off in this one. So still a wait and see. But if the job security's there, he's going to be nice at 119K. You'd hope he gets that opportunity, but we'll wait and see still. No definitive answer following that trial game, I wouldn't have thought. West Coast.
Probably just one. Zach Reed actually looked really good.
Yeah, good
and
call.
He's the same sort of price as Sadu Harley, and I've got him on my bench at the moment. I think as long as he can stay fit, I think he could be a good option.
Yeah, for sure. He's one that I think most of us had last year.
Still a big if. Still a big if.
Yeah, most of us had last year, but injured in round one on about a 15. So West Coast versus Richmond on this next game. Now, I know Jordan did some stats on this one, some manual stat getting. We did mention off the top of the show, a little bit of a nuffy there on the Supercoach front. So good on you, mate. We do love that, though. And I got to watch this game as well. It wasn't the greatest affair, West Coast versus Richmond, especially with these names out. Tim Taranto, Jacob Hopper, Tom Lynch, Nick Vlauston, Jaden Short, Toby Nankervis, Nathan Broad, and Josh Smiley. So Richmond pretty much took their VFL squad plus a couple of extras, and the Weagles, the mighty Weagles, who dominated this affair, look like flag-bound favourites here, Fance, but they were missing the GOAT Harley Reid, Jeremy McGovern, Ryan Marich, who, according to Ryan Daniels, and Eliza Riley over in the West, I think that they favoured them in, like, Ryan Marich didn't get that go over the SPP guys that were playing. And then Melbourne just go snake one of those guys right off our hands, signing the SPP selection there as well. So any players that you guys want to touch on in this game? I think the big one, just Sam Lawler getting a fractured jaw was announced today. So 203K, the number one pick in the draft, he's going to be missing at least the first round, you'd imagine, Vance.
Racing the clock is the word. Wasn't going to be able to play in that next practice match anyway, given the concussion as well. But this now puts him in doubt for that opening round one game against the Blues, but haven't officially ruled him out yet. But you wouldn't have thought they'd take too many risks with their prize pick.
All right, well, let's throw it to the man who took some of the stats.
What do we got? What stood out? What did you take?
Bear in mind, this was 3 periods of play as well, so it was only 25 flat, I think, 3 periods. So, not a full game.
Yeah, so we touched on Layla. I think maybe it helps our decision because we've got so many mid rookies that we need to pick. but he did look good. He could have had a third goal as well if he didn't get that bump from Jimby. So I don't know what sort of score he could have got, but it could have been like pretty decent for 3 quarters.
Yeah.
So yeah, Elijah Hewitt, I know he's quite highly owned. He had a mid-forward role, so I think he was the third banana in the CBAs behind Duggan and Graham, which is great to see. And he kicked the opening goal in the first quarter, so it was great to see that. He was playing mid in that mid-forward role. Looked pretty solid. I think I think as long as he's fit, he's going to be best 22, and I think lock him in your sides.
Yep.
I'm
Dos?
Oh, yeah. Nah, I'm big on him.
Yeah, unsure on his scoring. It could be like maybe those 50s, 60s. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I think at his price, he's going to make us some money.
Yeah, for sure. Nah, he looked fantastic. And yeah, I agree with Lawler. I was almost like, wouldn't have cared what he scored. His job security is just incredible as the number 1 pick. And I feel like he was playing, mid-forward. It didn't really – the fact he's kicking nearly 3 goals, and I think Richmond would have kicked maybe 3 goals as a team just about. They couldn't hit the scoreboard. And he's already kicking, 2 or 3 would have kicked 3 of their goals. That is amazing for a young player. And I think as the season goes on, he'll probably get more mid-time. And I actually think he'll play better when there's the better brigade of bigger bodies in there to help him out. So that's a tough one. I think, you could still, if he's named, I think you could still start him, or he's just going to be a downgrade target potentially once the season started. So keep an eye out for Sammy Lawler, and hopefully he recovers well from that fractured jaw.
Spot on. So the next guy, Matty Flynn, he's been in the few sides, I think early on, being at that price tag as a ruck, or whether you want to put him in as a flex. He did look pretty good at the start, quite a few hit outs. I was taking the stats. He did give away 2 frees in the ruck in the first quarter. So, but I think, as a ruck, that's sort of what happens. Yep. But he played 2 periods and then he went off with a sore back.
I know.
And Bailey Williams, I think, came in on the 3rd period. So, again, this is probably sort of the thing that we're worried about with Flynn is the injury history, and just whether we can pick him doesn't give us a heap of confidence.
We've just got to keep an eye out for news on that one for Matt Flynn. But he was basically, to your point, I was watching him. I'm like, okay, I know he's not versing, like Nank wasn't there. He was rucking against the Richmond's backup, but he was so much bigger than him as well. And he looked solid. He looked like a guy, I'm willing to pay $250K for. Like, I was like, lock him in. And then by the 3rd period, it's like, he's off with us all back. So take him back out.
But again,
no, don't overreact.
3 period. I know injury prone guy, but also that he might say, I've got a really, really, really minor spot. Get off. That's what Eagles would say.
He did look frustrated though, according to Eliza Riley's reporting. So that to me, I don't know. You wouldn't get super, super frustrated if you're just like, it's just a niggle. Frustrating for us
it
as
is.
well.
Let's hope it's right.
I quite liked the look of Liam Baker as well for West Coast. And the one for me that sort of stood out as a potential option, as I said, Richmond were missing everyone basically, but Jacob Blight at 246K, we know that he could score in the waffle, averaged over a ton in the waffle, which isn't an easy competition to score well in. I thought Jacob Blight looked pretty good, and I think he had some pretty good numbers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think, obviously with those outs at the Tigers, Short and Vlaston, he was pretty much that guy that was getting those some +6s. Obviously, he's a pretty tall key position player as well. But he was getting, some of those +6s around there. So, as you said, plenty of footy down there. Banks and Caleb Smith were the other 2, which are pretty cheap as well. And those guys were the ones that were taken out of the back line. But 246K, I think that awkward price. But one to watch. I feel like there's a couple of cheaper guys we might want to go at that D5, D6. But if there's going to be plenty of ball down at the Tigers, then it's one to watch.
We know how important intercept possessions are for SuperCoach scoring, and that's one of his strengths coming out of the waffle. And even in he played 3 games last year in the seniors for the Tigers. His final 2 games, 86 and 60 SuperCoach wise. had a combined 11 intercepts and 12 marks there, which sort of mirrored his VFL numbers last year at the Tigers. Finished the year, averaged 106 SuperCoach points and 10 intercept possessions per game. So they are some good numbers from Jacob Blight. So again, it's going to be down there. He knows how to win the ball back off the opposition. He'll get a lot of chances. So, it could be worth paying up for if you might need to restructure depending on El Hawley's, Riley Bice. We might not get those rookies in defence. So maybe you do spend up there.
Yeah, I like some of the confidence coming out. He's been part of a lot of the Richmond social media, which I actually usually like a bit of social media rankings in terms of if a player is featuring a lot in their socials, generally they've got a plan for them to be in the team during the year is what I generally like, unless you're Cooper Hamilton, but usually I think they've got a general plan for you. And Jacob Blight has just mentioned he's got a lot of, he said himself, he's got a lot of self-belief that he is going to try and, that he's going to try and make an impact this year. And that his goal is to play a lot of senior footy this year as well. So I'm kind of bullish on how Jacob Blight, despite the price tag, 23 years old, mature body back there for the Tigers, maybe mops up some of that, some of those possessions that we're hoping go, some coaches are hoping go straight to Jaden Short. So that is where I'm thinking. So I'm pretty high on him. But maybe the last couple of players we can talk about is some other players maybe making their way into the rookie Bible. Bo Allen, who's one of the most popular picks in SuperCoach fans. He looked all right back there. Look,
Your man.
I don't know, how he looked.
Jagger Smith.
Don't know how he looked compared to Jagger. No, I'm not going to be that person that compares him all the time. He looked pretty good for the West Coast Eagles, and I think job security again should be there early if he's going to be able to be composed like he was on the weekend.
Yep.
One other player, though, Jack Hutchinson.
Yes.
We talk about awkward price tags, 233.5K forward. Looks to be in a bit of a wing/mid role. And he did play inside mid towards the end of last year. I think it's more that he's been pushed down to the wing, but he's got a lot of speed, explosive player. So I think that could be actually where they're looking to play in this season, fans.
Yeah, against the Cats. Had him in my team that week on field. Got me some big, important wins there at the end of the year. 102 SuperCoach points, 16 contested possessions. He had that day playing on the inside down at the Cattery when the Eagles got spanked. So showed he can do it. So I don't mind it too. Would like to see it again. Give us some full stats and numbers in the proper community series game. But definitely one who's made it onto the watch list again. A crowded forward line, we know, in terms of the mid prices and the bargain options available, but definitely onto the watch list.
Geelong Hawks. I think it's time to touch on the final game of the round. Before. Yeah.
Before. That's been on at time of recording.
At the time of
plenty
recording,
more to come
yes.
this week.
Plenty more. There was a few out of this one as well. Tom Barras is probably the main one for the Hawks there, along with Massimo D'Ambrosio, concussion there. And then for the Cats, there was no Toby Conway, Cam Guthrie, Lawson Humphreys, and Jack Martin were some of the notable absentees. Baz Lenker, I think he showed enough, lads. Didn't
he have 10 in the first quarter?
He had plenty of the pill. One of the reporters, Matt Forrest, fans, saying he went at 44% efficiency though by the end of the game, but still, he's racking up the pill.
He's done that a bit before. That's not overly new with Bailey Smith, even when he's fully up and going back at the Dogs. So I think just seeing him hit the ground running in his first game in a long time, I think that's all we need to see with him. So as you said, I think, on your overreactions post on X, don't overthink it.
One note about Bailey Smith was just the CBAs. Obviously, I thought maybe he'd be a bit more inside. Obviously, he had the 5 CBAs. Obviously, he only played the half the game there, but still wondering his role. Obviously, there's the wing, inside, forward. I think, preseason, I thought maybe he would be that full-time mid. So, but yeah, at his price, you can't really say no to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and could be giving a go at the moment to a guy like Mitch Nevitt, who is on our rookie radar, fans as well, and the Lair's friend of the Lair, Dan Batten.
Dan Batten, all over it.
Big fan. So yeah, Mitch Nevitt was one that did impress at 149K. Keep him in your plans, and hopefully he gets a game early. So playing as sort of that inside mid as well for the Cats. So smooth mover. tall. I think he's over 190 centimetres. Looked really good there. Did a beautiful chase down tackle on Will Day, but then did turn it over in the corridor shortly after that. But looked good anyway, Mitch Nevitt. And talking about Will Day, my goodness, he was amazing. 491K. I got to say, I forgot about last year. Must have put it out of my mind because he's straight back in for me now, fans. I can't move him out of my team. I don't care about the early buy. I don't care about anything. I'm moving heaven and earth.
Because overreaction.
Will Day, the overreaction on him, he just looks incredible. And that patch in the middle of the season last year where he really put it all together, I think we're going to see that early in the season this year.
The key for me, we discussed it last show, was about what Hawthorn want to do with Will Day forward of the ball, and people worried, is he going to play forward more? But he even said too that that's what the great midfielders do. They get forward and hit the scoreboard, and that's what he wants to do, and that's what he did against the Cats. Kick 3 goals from the midfield, and that's the key for me. So that's what
gave an easy one off too.
That's what's going to take him to another level in SuperCoach, as well as consistency in his form and his body too, which haven't seen yet.
I saw you put the captaincy on him as well.
Dossie. Oh yeah, the captaincy's early days next year. No, that might have been
a little
bit far, but
that might have been the post that you sourced inspiration from elsewhere on.
Oh, okay. All right, okay. Sorry, Tim, if you're listening there. Player though, we need to talk about from the other team, 361K. You sort of mentioned him a little bit off the top. You said you've swapped him out of your team though, Jordan. I'm talking about Sam De Koning, also known as Superior De Koning.
Yes,
SDK.
he obviously played in the ruck and started in the ruck, but then had a bit of split of time with Blitz and Stanley. And I understand Conway is out, but I'm still, I guess probably want to see a bit more. There's a few tweets today on Freako.
Yeah, I was just going to get them up. Fancy Freako's
a bit of
SDK.
SDK. There's been a bit of hype that he will be while he's been training there all pre-season. But it does have that early buy as well. I just found a bit of extra coin and went him up to McKercher. I feel like could be a bit safer just because of the split of the ruck time. But we do get to see him in opening round. So if I see him full-time ruck, he will be back in my side in no time.
Now, speaking of Fantasy Freako, he's got some stats to complement the Will Day take from just before as well. From round 10 to 20 last year, Will Day, 23.6 disposals, 9.4 contested, 4 inside 50, 6 tackles, 114 SuperCoach in that middle of the season that I was talking about for Will Day, and he's under 500K. So shout out to Fantasy Freako. We know he's an avid listener. We've also got Sam De Koning stats from the great man, Fantasy Freako. Sam De Koning's club ranking in his time as a ruck last year, which was rounds 15 to 19, first in handballs and clearances, second in contested possessions, third in handball receives, fourth in disposals, and he averaged 95 SuperCoach points. He also goes on to say he's a big fan. He's done a double tweet for Sam De Koning. I think he might be in Freako's team at the moment. Disposals per game by rucks from rounds 15 to 19 as well when De Koning was playing there. The most among ruckmen, 20.8 disposals ahead of Rowan Marshall at 20, and then it goes Nank, Grundy and Cherry. So
good numbers.
When Sammy De Koning's in there, he certainly can get the job done. It's just to Jordan's point, how much does he play in the actual ruck position?
Yeah, if we see it opening round, he will be straight in because at his price, and to go 95, as you said, I think that's massive.
Huge. Any other players you want to touch on there, Fance?
I think we've covered a few. I think we've probably covered good wrap. Good to have some footy back. We've been talking about it for a while. It's finally good to see it out there, and we can actually really start working out our sides and working out that final watch list. The players are going to be tracking what we need to see. It's not always how much, but just what we need to see in the Community Series game and the rest of the practice matches.
Perfect. Yeah, it was a great wrap. Thanks, Jordan, for joining us as well. If you want any track watch notes out from Port Adelaide, of course, follow Code Sports first, but then Jordan as well. He does like to get out to training. So looking forward to some more intel from you there. And join, Fance, the Open League. We've got to get Jordan on board as well. Should we read out the code for
Give us the code again.
Give us the code one last time. I've got to bring it up now. It is 719067. If you are still listening right to the very end, we'd love you to join the Lair Open League.
Yep, take on myself and the big chieftain over there, Muscles, Haydn Kenny, as he's referred to outside the Lair and outside the office if you are just joining here for the first time. But please come back if that is you. Get this wherever you get your podcast, Spotify and Apple and everywhere else. And of course, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the Code Sports YouTube channel where you can watch us every week. All your favourites will be back. 5 names in a bit of a drive-by for the hipsters. So that battle, that rivalry is still to play out in 2025.
Perfect. Leave a rating and review as well on Spotify and Apple if you haven't already. We're going to have to set some sort of target for fans as well. Whether we get to 200 or 300, we're going to have little targets that we set, and maybe something to do with hipster and 5 names we might have to do. Leave some suggestions for us in the comments if you have any ideas.
Maybe shave the mullet off.
Yeah, the mullet's going to go. Sorry. The mullet is going. Don't worry about that. All right. Without further ado, I think that'll do us.
Yeah, with other feedback. So get on there and tell us what you think.
Thanks, boys.